and I watched the film, and we weren't sure what to expect when we watched it. And I spoke Joaquin with you shortly after it, and we both loved the film. We thought the film, as we just said to the audience out there, it wasn't your traditional horror film. Because when you see a title like the Legend of the Hillbilly Butcher, you expect things, maybe to be out of control. You expect blood, you expect gore, you expect all that. In this film, Joaquin, and I pay a compliment to you and to Paul and to Teresa and also to Chris, you guys bring something that is not what you expect it to be. You bring a methodical storytelling to it. You bring a nice blend of blood and gore in it. You bring drama to it. And we'd like to thank you for that, first of all, starting off the show with the effort you put forward.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
That means a lot to me. I love horror. There's some people that don't like horror, and they do a movie and they say, well, it's not really a horror film. It's more of a thriller. And I'm not one of those guys. I love horror. One of my favorite horror films is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But that being said, I think you can do a horror film and not necessarily make like a statement or a message film, but you can put some serious elements in there and still be a horror film, but actually say something with it, and it can actually be more horrifying if you do that than if you don't say anything and you just make it a quote a ride movie.
Absolutely, and with that, you guys really don't take it to that element of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You really build a story around Carl Henry. And Paul, you really portrayed very well with your character. I mean, you're on the. It would seem that you're past your years of being this character, the butcher, and it seems that really the people who come onto your property are the ones who get it. You're not out to just get anyone who walks around. You actually have a backstory to you. You have a humanity to you. There's nothing. If we didn't go on your property, you would be left to your own devices. With Teresa and with anyone else around there. So, the way, Paul, you portray it, and I'll start with you, Paul, the way you portray it is absolutely great because you bring out that character and you show humanity to it as well as a vision.
Well, it's interesting because early on, I was talking with Joaquin about my relatives, and I told him about an uncle I have, and I said, the thing about my uncle is that the law ends at his property. And Joaquin kind of took that and incorporated it into the whole idea of Carl Henry, and it made it a whole lot easier for me to identify with Carl Henry because there's a lot about Carl Henry that I can identify with, but there's a lot about him that is kind of terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there is a lot that's terrifying about him. And I mean, you see him, and as soon as he's almost provoked, you see the butcher come out, and it's quite interesting. And then you see Teresa's character, Raylene, and she almost doesn't fit where she is. She's the half sister, but she doesn't fit. But she seems to find that humanity with Carl Henry.
That's you, Teresa.
Yeah, that's you, Teresa.
Well, yeah. it's her half brother. So that's the most important thing to her, other than her Hollywood wannabiness.
And it's a very good job by you, Teresa, with this character because you really bring a style and a flair to Raylene, and I really enjoyed the way she was portrayed because you see this backwoods, you see how Paul looks. I mean, his beard's all grown out, and he looks like he belongs there, but you don't fit there. Teresa, what was it like bringing this character of Raylene to the screen with such a contrast to what was around you?
Oh, it was just so fun. It wasn't about anything around me. It was just about what Raylene needed to see around her. Her world wasn't what you saw. Her world was what she saw. And what she saw was a fantasy world where she could whisk Carl Henry away with her somewhere better one day if she could just get her hands on the right, film reel or something exciting.
Yeah.
So it was so fun.
Can I add something to that, Jay?
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a script, of course, but the character of Raylene in the script is a different character than what Teresa brought to it. And I mean that in the best of all possible ways, meaning she brought more to it. In fact, the character as written was not as humorous or quirky. And that's all Teresa. And in fact, the scene in the mirror and the scene later on, which I don't want to say, but where, stuff happens to her, those were written, but they were never intended to be shot. I was going to show little snippets as a flashback, but when I got with Teresa, she said, well, no, I mean, we'll shoot that stuff.
Let's tell it. Let's tell the story.
Yeah.
So I got to give a lot of credit to her bringing that character to life, because it's not the same character that was in the script. She brought it more to life than as written.
Thank you. Wow.
Wow, and it definitely does come to life. And
Thank
it's
you.
one of the things that the Ghost and I noticed about it. I mean, the performances are very, very good in the movie, and you, Joaquin, do a great job directing it all because the fact that there are times where that film could go slow. I mean, you sit there and you could just go, okay, it's starting to drag on, but it never really does that because just when you think that things are starting to slow down, you throw a victim in there, or you throw the drama in there with Chris and Teresa. I mean, you throw these different elements in there, and it's elements that people can really understand. I mean, there's some things, well, maybe not the murder per se, but the abuse and the events that go around that, and the way that Carl Henry reacts to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like all the gore and the nastiness and all that, and I love being able to watch a horror movie and enjoy it. But there's a part of me that I don't know what part of me it is, but it's I feel like people should be punished, and so it's like, okay, let's watch this horror movie and it could be stupid horror and gore, and I'm like, no, I can use this to devastating purposes. I can show this woman getting prepared for this day and all this and all these hopes and dreams and be a little quirky and funny, and then you smash that and I think you make it more disturbing because it's a scene that you watch and that you don't enjoy, and it's kind of a punishing scene. And so I don't know. There's a part of me that I like the horror and I like going there, but I want it to have a point, and so sometimes I feel it should be punishing.
Well, and it was punishing, and I'm here. Okay, I'm here with Joaquin. I'm here with Teresa. I'm here with Paul from The Legend of the Hillbilly Butcher here on the Horror House and Rita Show. And Teresa, when you go through that experience, the abuse, the scene in the film where you really are taken advantage of when the dreams are shattered.
Yeah.
What kind of acting did you go into with this? What kind of focus did you study up on victims of this? Did you go ahead and just go with what you felt? How did you approach this?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't know if I should give my secrets away, but I will say I definitely believe in an actor having a palette full of different techniques, and Joaquin's demand for really good work. I really needed to call on a good 2 or 3 different techniques. So yeah, for part of the scene that's not even actually in the final cut, I had to method it up a bit. I had to go somewhere pretty dark, pretty scary, pretty vulnerable.
Wow.
But it's a split second. You dive into there, and then you grab on a different technique, and you're back. You're back exactly where you need, right there in the moment.
Absolutely. And let me ask you to follow up with that, Teresa. After doing scenes like that and being in a horror film like this, The Legend of the Hillbilly Butcher, does it leave an impact? Does it leave a mark on you to go through things like this and have experiences like this on camera?
Oh, not. Not as an actress. No. Actually, it's more therapeutic. If anything, I would say cathartic. Yeah, actually, it's more helpful. I see my art as therapy. So going through something like this, of course, under in the safety of a film project, is absolutely more of a positive than a negative. Now, I'm not saying I want to cry on TV every day. That might eventually start to cause a certain series of patterns in my brain that I wouldn't like. But as far as going deep in a role like this, oh, I crave it.
Now, it's interesting that you asked that question because for me, the effect was actually different.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it was by the time we got finished with the movie, I felt in a way traumatized because I was dealing with a character that, on one hand, I could relate to because he's like relatives of mine, and on the other hand, I couldn't relate to because he was so horrific, and and so much of my character was enveloped in his look, which, you know, the beard that I grew and everything. And so every morning I was getting up, living my regular life, seeing Carl Henry Jessup in my mirror, and then going through the scenes. And it was funny because when I finally saw the movie, when I saw the finished product, a friend asked me what I thought of it, and I said, I hate to admit it, I loved it.
Your least favorite role, you loved it.
It was, you know, I really like what Joaquin did with it and everything, because I want to give the credit to Joaquin because Joaquin is an excellent director.
Best director I've worked with as of yet.
But for me, it was very traumatic.
I'll pay you guys later, all right?
Yeah, right.
Hey, I want to cut to that. Come on.
Yeah. You'll get your check, Jake.
But you know what, Paul, I'm glad you addressed that because, you know, that's the first time, Teresa, I've ever heard it being therapeutic. Normally what Paul said is what, and even tonight, talking to some of the actresses we had on, you know, it really does affect. I mean, we had Jack Ketchum on earlier in the show. We had him on before. And for him, dealing with the fact that he has to write these books, these horrific situations, does have an effect on you for a certain amount of time. And I would expect, especially for you, Paul, that you would go ahead and have these effects because, I mean, there was some depth in that film, in The Legend of the Hillbilly Butcher, that was really brutal. Some of the things you did, and especially at the end when you took revenge for Raylan, I mean, it was just, oh my God, you know, you just like, how could he do something like that and be able to go through it and to deal with it every day, to have to keep the beard, to have to keep the look, you know, I can only imagine how much it really does affect you.
It was really a head trip on me. It really was. And in fact, when we finished it, I couldn't wait to shave that beard off.
Yeah, I've worked with Paul for quite a long time. He's my favorite leading man. I've used him in, this is the third film I use him in as the lead, and we have a strong relationship. There's a shorthand. There's like, I don't really need to say stuff to him. He knows what I want, but this is the one time where we had a heart to heart with me on the porch and said, hey man, you know, I don't know about this movie. I mean, you know, these are I come from this, and you know, I want to make sure you're not making fun of these people. And I had to explain to him, it's like, because he said, I don't want like what the Coen brothers did with Fargo, where they're making fun of those people. I'm not saying that's what they did, but Paul said that's what they did, and people have said that's what they did. And I had to tell him, I said, no, look, listen, I love that culture. I'm not from that culture, but I love that culture. I have a respect and a fondness for it. So I don't wish to make fun of it. I wish to show it. Simply as that.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's a big question that people have, because when you go ahead, Joaquin, and you are portraying someone's culture, you're portraying someone's heritage. I mean, you know, it's a very thin line there of what's respectful and what's not. And you know, in The Legend of the Hillbilly Butcher, you know, there is, at least in my opinion, there's no fun made of this culture. In fact, Paul plays a very proud character, and you know, to a point, Teresa is almost that it almost kind of makes a statement of the person who wants to get out, and maybe that's where you can draw it from in her performance. But Paul plays his character, and you're like, you know what, this guy's proud of who he is. He's proud of what he does. He protects what he is. He's in a sense old school, and I think it's portrayed very well by your direction and by their acting.
Yeah, this is the first time in a film I think I've captured that element of culture. One review I got from this guy at Ain't It Cool News, he mentioned that he loved the film like you did, and he likened it to, I never thought of this because I don't feel I do anything like him, but he actually likened it to a John Waters film where he felt he was seeing this culture on film that he hadn't seen before, and you know, I don't mind the John Waters reference at all, but I like the fact that he feels I captured an element of culture, and that means a lot to me because I wanted to do that, and I think I succeeded.
Yeah, if I could add something to that also, you know, I really believe that heart to heart that Joaquin was referencing was a very important part in the making of this movie, because I believe that it encapsulated the character for me, and it also helped to hone Joaquin's vision of the movie in itself.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to it, and Joaquin, I read about this, how Paul came in with the beard after being off from work for a while. Was Paul's character and Teresa's character, because they have a unique look about them when it comes to the film. Paul definitely fits what the setting is, what the story is, and Teresa, or Raylan, doesn't. Like Teresa just said, you know, she's looking for those bigger dreams.
Right.
The way that they are dressed and the way that their mannerisms are, was that brought more from your writing and direction, or was it a mix of feedback from both Paul and Teresa and what you thought?
Well, it's a mix. It's a bit of a mix. And I'm glad you brought the issue of character, because I pretty much everything I've ever written has been character based as opposed to event based. And what I mean by that is I've seen the characters before I've seen what they do, and I've landed on a character. And yeah, Paul came over to my house. He had been out of work for some time because he had an operation, and he had a long beard and his hair was long. And to me, he looked like a hillbilly, and I told him that. And so boom, the idea came. I wanted to do a short film. I had done a short film called Straight Razor, which I basically played all the parts in it. And a guy gets killed by a straight razor. And so I wanted to do another short film, and the name of the film was going to be Butcher Knife, because, you know, the murder weapon would be the title of the film. It would have been a short film. But when I saw the way he looked, I said, you know, screw the short film. Let's do a feature on this character. And so now we get the wardrobe, and so the feel of the character I have innately inside me. The dialogue is inside me when I write it, but the look, I'm always looking for what the actor has. I never really go and get wardrobe. Very rarely do I do that. I basically tell the actors to bring me what they have. I tell them what I want, and then they bring it, and then we play around with it, and so till it feels right. And I know Paul through the years with the clothes he has, so I knew he would have those clothes. Teresa, I didn't know whether she'd have the clothes, but having worked with her in my previous film, Hole, I knew her background, and I knew she'd be able to make the character happen, whether or not she had the clothes.
Wow, and the characters do happen. The film is great, and Joaquin, something else that I wanted to bring up also with you is that the way that the film is shot, I really enjoy the way it's shot. And you know, you could do a film like this, and you know, the characters can be unique and it can be character driven, but the way that the setting looks and the way that film, the feel of it, could be lost.
Right.
The stories and the characters. The way you film it and the way that it's almost like a filter. It's shot almost like in a filter, like the old, I want to say 8mm. I don't know if I'm going in the right direction.
You are.
Like the old school camera. the old school 8mm cameras, it's shot that way, and it gives such an authentic feeling to it, a feel that you look at, you go, you know what, this happened, and it's almost like a found footage where something bad happened, and we're going to pop it on, and we don't know what's going to happen. And, it, just from the first roll of the reel,
Right.
you can see that it gives that feel to it.
I'm glad you say that, because what I wanted to happen was, there's that bit up front with the storyteller, which is completely tripoded, non-handheld, and it's more normal. It's a little more slick, even though it's kind of noirish looking, but it's pretty slick and standard, and a normal film. And then we go from that to the credits sequence, and then we enter the world of the film. And what I wanted people to be thinking is like, oh wow, man, these end credits look cool, but they're not going to have the balls to do this look for the whole movie, I bet. And I wanted them to say that. I wanted them to think that. And then we go into the first scene with Carl, and no, the movie is like the credits. And it's an either. I knew it was going to be either you love that or you hate it. But I think most people, given Hipstamatic and all the vintage apps for iPhones, that I think we're in a good time for retro and vintage, and I think more people will love than hate that. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I that was an important part of it for me.
Absolutely, and vintage for sure, and that's the word I was looking for. It definitely has a vintage feel. Teresa and Paul, after watching the film, how do you feel about the way that was filmed? First, we'll start with Teresa. How do you feel about the way it was filmed? I know you love the direction by Joaquin. Do you echo that sentiment about the vintage feel of it adding to the story?
Absolutely. It's just true Joaquin style to add some kind of visually stunning effect to the film. So I love it. I love that it looks like it's timeless, really, even though I know what time I'm operating in.
Yeah, I also feel I love the look of the film. I absolutely adore it. Joaquin would show me little bits and pieces, and I mean really little bits and pieces, and it was just teasing me all through the making of the movie. And when I saw the finished product, I was stunned. I was really stunned because it's not just the story, it's not just the characters, it's the look and the feel of it. Like you said, the vintage feel.
Yeah, it does, and that's one of the things that really sells it. And I'm here with Paul Redpath, Teresa Holly, and Joaquin Montalban, the Legend of the Hillbilly Butcher. And as we move towards our conclusion with this, Teresa, Paul, and Joaquin, as you look back, tell us, is there any funny stories you can tell? Any stories about that happened? There's the laughter. Yeah. All I need to hear was the laughter.
Oh, I thought you said in conclusion. This was what you should have started with.
I don't know if everybody has a story, but I'll tell mine first. We were all involved because it's such a small crew type deal, so pretty much when something went down that we were there, but the end scene, which I won't say what happens in the end, but somebody dies at the end. We filmed this pretty much all in Pasadena, California, and a lot of it in this place called the Arroyo, which is a preserve. It's not like a national park or anything, but it's a park where a lot of people go. They jog, they ride horses, they walk their dogs. And we're filming a murder there, and somebody thought that somebody had actually got hurt and called the cops on us
and the paramedics
and the paramedics showed up and the cops showed up and they were actually looking for me, and I was actually filming a scene with Teresa in another part of the place while somebody else was working with Paul. And Paul, why don't you continue the story from here?
And I was being worked on by another member of the cast, and
I'm trying not to give too much away.
Yeah, but in any case, what happened was all of a sudden I hear a voice from behind me saying, "You don't have a permit, do you?" And I'll tell you, I just about shit my pants.
And then they said, who's responsible here or something like that. And you said, oh, that'd be Joaquin. He's over there filming. And then they looked for me, but they couldn't find me. And so the bottom line, they just said, hey, in the future, put a sign up. But I gotta say this, people badmouth Pasadena cops. I tell you,
They were cool.
As far as filming goes, the Pasadena cops have come and surrounded me a couple times, and they've never banned me from shooting. They've let me shoot, and they've been cool with me. So I have nothing bad to say about Pasadena cops.
I like them.
Well, that is very
Can I say
good.
one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Please, real quick. I just want to say, I don't know how many times you've seen the movie, but every time you see it, pay close attention to things in the background. This Joaquin Montalban has some pretty neat symbolic genius going on in all these different places. So you'll see something different, and you'll make a new connection with something else that links to something else every time you watch it. I think that's one of my favorite things that I like about this movie.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something also. Something interesting about this movie that I was bringing up with Joaquin before we came on the air was that not everyone, but almost all of the actors in the film studied at the same studio. We're students of the same teacher.
Wow.
It's a hillbilly family.
It's really just a coincidence because Joaquin does the casting, but that's just how it worked out in this film.
It's kind of all in the family, I guess.
I would say so, and it's a very well dysfunctional family.
I wouldn't have it any other way, Jake.
Thank you so much for all your compliments.
Oh, no problem. You know what? When you put so much hard work into a film, Teresa, Paul, and Joaquin, you know what? He deserves those compliments. And the Legend of the Hillbilly Butcher will be on my top 20 for 2012.
All right.
Wonderful.
That's an honor, Jay. Thank you very much.
Big honor.
No problem. It will be on there, and I tell people when I see them, I tell them in the stores that they can get their hands on, pick up a copy, not only because, as I said before, it's not your traditional blood and gore butcher film. It's methodically told, the characters are good, it's got its share of blood and gore, and it's a fun film to watch. I mean, it's very vintage in the style that it's filmed in, and it definitely offers a lot for the viewer.
I would just wait till all the other good little secret nibblets come out.
Yeah, I'm waiting for this thing to hit big so that I can reveal a couple of other bombs about how this film was made that may stone people, but I can't say anything at this juncture.
It's good.
But there's some more bombs to reveal.
To be continued.
Will you guys come back on?
Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a loyal guy, and the guys who give me props when nobody knows my ass from a hole in the wall, I'm a lifetime loyal customer.
Well, we appreciate you guys joining the family here on the Hard Happens Radio Show.
By the way, there is one other thing I want to tell you, Jay. That knife that I used was actually a knife that was left to me from my real father.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
My father was a chef.
I know that his knife.
Based on a true story.
I know that the knife was his dad's, but I didn't know his dad was a chef. I just found that out now.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I know.